The silence is quiet, and it feels like it's getting hard to breathe. And I know you feel like dying, but I promise we would take the world to its feet. Move mountains, bring it to its feet. Move mountains, and I'll rise up. I'll rise like the day. I'll rise up. I'll rise unafraid. I'll rise up, and I'll do it 1,000 times again.
Good afternoon. You are tuned into Ability Matters, a program that covers matters to do with abilities, disabilities and everything in between. Ability Matters is one of the longest-running disability-related programs in the whole wide world. Starting as Headway On Air in 2007, you can now listen to podcasts of previous Ability Matters programs on YouTube and Spotify. Just search for Ability Matters.
And this is Ability Matters, and you're listening to young Peter filling in for the one and only Tony and Rebecca. But we've got Sean and Sam this morning, so up to you.
I don't want to, chip you, Peter, but it's afternoon.
Oh, well.
I know, and I do that because I always do the same when I'm on this show. I say good morning, so it's not just me. I feel a little bit better. Thanks for filling in. Yeah, so you're doing Tony today, and I'm doing Beck. So
I am doing Tony. Yeah.
Yeah, they're off doing other things. So stepping in, as I'd always like to, and as you just heard there, just want to do a little plug for the podcast. It is on Ability Matters on Spotify and on YouTube. Just look for Ability Matters. Lots of great. About 12 months worth of podcasted episodes there now, so check it out. And today, as young Pete mentioned, we do have a young man in, Sam. He's a physio. Good morning, Sam. Good afternoon, Sam. I did it for you.
Good afternoon. Thanks so much for having me on the show. It's my first time on the radio, but nervous but excited.
Oh, okay. It's always good. And Madonna says that the day she doesn't get butterflies in her stomach before she goes on stage, she's going to give it up. She likes that excited energy, so that's good to have.
Yeah, it's always good to do something new. So
yeah, challenge yourself, keep learning. I've got a truck licence this year just to keep challenging myself. It's fun driving down the road in a truck. And so you're a physio. So before we talk about that, though, just find a little bit about the life of Sam. Where did you grow up? What did you do as a kid? Talk us a little bit, the little young Sam.
The life of Sam, okay. So Sam grew up in the lovely Blue Mountains, just west of Sydney. Had a great time with my siblings growing up and all that beautiful, bushland around where we lived. So I used to grow up and, run through the bush and play lots of sport on the street.
What little town in the Blue Mountains was it? Or?
It was called Wimberley, right near Springwood, kind of like the lower parts of the Blue Mountains. So,
okay.
Yeah. I still like to visit there when we can with my kids now and show them how beautiful it was.
Isn't there a hospital there or a mental hospital? There used to be one there.
I believe there is a little hospital in Springwood. I believe it's just for aged care, something like that.
I think it used to be that. I remember years ago as a little Boy Scout getting off the train at Springwood and then walking down the valley and coming around the back of the Three Sisters across the valley there and doing a 3-day walk through the bush there. Fantastic.
Yeah,
with the ruined castle and...
Grew up doing a lot of lovely bushwalks with the parents. I probably regretted it, or I didn't appreciate it when I was a teenager and being dragged along with mum and dad. But certainly, loved it as I got older, and I love to do it with my kids now in the beautiful Illawarra and the escarpment. And also loved growing up with my brother and doing lots of things like canyoning and things like that, which gave me a big appreciation of moving my body and getting out in the sun and into that beautiful nature that we lived in. So
yeah, I did a bit of canyoning. It was always fantastic when that sun comes over the top of the canyon for the hour a day. It peaks over and lights everything up. It's a magic time.
It was also lovely. I'm into ice baths at the moment, and I tell you, jumping in that water in the canyon felt like an ice bath. So
yeah, it's one of those things. Isn't water supposed to freeze at zero? And the water used to feel like less than zero. So much
it was cold, especially when your wetsuit's tiny and doesn't fit properly. So.
Cool. Okay. And then what happened? You grew up a little bit and what did you do?
Grew up a bit. I guess watched my siblings going to university because I was the youngest. So I was always very well aware of, I guess that university pathway. And they ended up in fields that were health related as well. So I was at school.
Sorry to jump in, but were your parents in the health field? Well, that's interesting that everyone ends up in the health field.
Actually, no. They weren't in the health field at all, but we all ended up that way. I've got a lovely sister-in-law who's an OT, and my wife, in fact, a nurse. So, you can imagine what we talk about when we all catch up. Yeah.
How much funding there is for health and how good it is. Not. Okay, yeah, and then you grew up.
Yeah, so grew up with a great, love of moving and exercise and playing a lot of sport. And then I enjoyed subject sports science at high school. And I remember going to like a careers expo, I believe, once when I was getting a bit older. And I saw this pamphlet about people that worked with people that had, disabilities or had suffered, injuries, and were teaching them how to walk again. And I thought, wow, that sounds like a pretty amazing career and something you could do as a job. So I guess it was always in the back of my mind as maybe something I wanted to give a go when I was at university eventually.
Okay, but you didn't sort of go to uni straight away after school though?
No, my second love was actually heading over to Europe, particularly Italy. So I learnt that at school. I kind of self-taught at year 11 and 12, travelled to Italy and worked over there on a vineyard for a few months and things like that.
Wow, a vineyard in Italy, that's the sauce, isn't it? Going right
I should be, to be completely honest, and I think my wife's listening, but you got to be honest. I really wanted to meet an Italian woman and marry her. It didn't quite happen, but that's okay. Still had a great time. And then when I came home, I worked in a few other jobs and saved up. Did quite a lot of a wide variety of jobs, working in warehouses, concrete pipe factories. Had plenty of time to think in those jobs, and thought, you know what, I reckon I could give uni a bit of a crack and see how it goes.
So how long after you finished school did you go to uni? Was it a year, 2 years, 3 years?
I think it was only a year and a half, and then I kind of got into exercise science midway through the year, and it went on from there. Okay, which uni did you go to? I did an undergrad of exercise science in Strathfield at ACU, and I was there for 3.5 years. ACU? What's that? Australian Catholic Uni. Okay. Yep. And had a great time there, got exposed to, all the different ways exercise can help in people's lives and moving and helping to get people moving. And I was lucky enough to travel over to East Timor when I was in that undergrad. And when did you go to East Timor? I believe it was, about 2011 with a fantastic program that the uni was running. So well after the Civil War there and all those... Yeah. It was very safe by that time. Yeah. And got to see the beautiful countryside, and we were part of a program that was using sport to, I guess, try to teach certain, methods of working on teamwork and collaboration and things like that through soccer, and just helping, instill that in the coaches we were working with. Oh, okay, 2 questions. I'll go. Do you surf at all? I have tried surfing, but I don't believe it agrees with me. I'd love to try it again. Was there surf in East Timor? I always wondered. There probably is. I know they're trying to get into diving. I believe the diving over there is very beautiful. You might have to watch out for a couple of crocs now and then. Yes, but and the sharks. I believe we were the only people over there that were swimming, and that seemed a bit odd at times. But I wondered why no one else swam over there, and they probably thought we were a bit crazy. But and it's just interesting. It's a bit of a digression, but I did see last year that a lot of martial arts were banned in Timor because it was started there as a fitness and a teamwork thing and a getting together thing. But they found that gangs were sort of getting together and getting highly trained, so they actually banned all the martial arts. Did you know about that? Well, no, but I remember getting invited, oddly enough, to a wedding over there, a local wedding, and just going for a quick walk at one night time, and we probably came across a gang. They were very friendly, though, I think, to foreigners, but maybe not so friendly to other gangs. So yeah, I think, like we said, the war and those things are probably a few years ago now, but there's always those things that sort of eddies of... things that sort of swirl through the society for years after. Yeah, interesting. To go to uni, generally, you've sort of finished school. So how did you get into uni? Was it, did you have a high enough mark through HSC, or did you do like a mature entry, or how did that sort of work? I used my mark from university, I guess because it had only been a year and a half, and got into exercise science. And then from then... So 3 years in exercise science? Yep. I was there for 3.5 years, I believe, because I just did a few extra subjects. Okay. And then I moved on into the Masters of Physiotherapy at Sydney. Okay. And Sydney Uni? Sydney. And how long did that take you? 2 years. Okay. Do all physios do masters? Is that... No. I'd say probably the majority of them do an undergraduate for 4 years. Okay. But it's probably becoming more common that people are doing a master's. Okay. For 2 years. So. And as a master's, you have to discover a new piece of information. What did you discover? Actually, no, it was all just coursework. Oh, really? Okay. So it was just coursework and a lot of prac in that last year. Oh, I thought masters involved. You had to pioneer a new bit of information or discover something. Maybe that's a doctorate. Maybe I'm getting confused with that. Yeah. I did do a little bit of study in the undergrad on Parkinson's disease, actually, which was quite interesting. But that was more part of the undergrad. So
Okay. I guess physio is generally sort of focused towards sports and those sorts of things. Now you're working very much with people with disability. How did that sort of come about?
I guess, when I first got interested in physio, I guess, and most physiotherapist students are probably like this too. They think, oh, wow, want to get those glamorous jobs working with the Matildas or whatever sport team they can see on TV. And I guess it's not until you go to university and you start doing pracs in various hospitals and other settings, and I guess for particularly for me and for other people, it dawns on them, oh wow, there's all these other fields you can work with that are very rewarding. I guess that's what led me down that path of wanting to work eventually with people with disabilities and things like that.
Okay, did you have any like pracs or anything through the course that you came involved with people with disability that sort of opened your eyes a little bit, or was it just sort of a general progression towards it? How did that movement happen?
I did some lovely pracs. I remember doing one out of RPA Hospital in Sydney that was a community-based prac, so going into people's homes with another physio and just helping to work on various issues that they were having, helping to get moving a bit easier. So that gave me a lot of great insights early on. And I worked in other hospitals as a student in Sydney, St George, and Vinnie's Hospital in Sydney as well. So that gave me a really early, broad experience of the different kind of people you could work with as a physio.
Okay, and just before we go to music, we're sort of at the current day. Just tell us a little bit about your life now. Have you got kids, and what do you do on the weekend, and what is the... I won't say middle-aged Sam, because he's definitely not middle-aged. What does the slightly younger Sam do?
I feel like, I don't know if I'm getting to middle age. It feels like I'm definitely getting older, but I spend my days playing with kids, so it keeps me young. Well, for example, I was at a lovely book week march this morning for my oldest son at primary school. Last night...
Sorry, book week, that brings back some memories. What did he go dressed as?
He was Terry Denton from the Treehouse Story. So he had a little mask, which I feel like he might have been hiding behind, but I think he had fun still.
It always interests me that people sometimes go as AFL or rugby league players.
There were a lot of soccer players there.
I'm not sure what book they're from. But
in their defence, some of them were carrying books of the stars, because all the stars do like to have a book now.
That's true. They do have an autobiography or something, don't they?
Yeah, someone else wrote, I think. Yeah.
Good point. Okay.
Last night I was at my other son's gorgeous preschool Father's Day night, so that's my other son. And I've got a lovely little daughter who's only 15 months too.
Okay.
And I should mention, I also live with my beautiful wife. Can't forget her too.
I do weddings. I was at a wedding the other night, and the groom got up and he'd had a few beers, and he's like, "Oh, I'd like to thank the guests for coming, and the bridesmaids, they look beautiful, and the groomsmen, they look great. Thanks for coming, everyone." And sat down. I was like, "Oh, say something about the bride." And he sort of went, "Yeah, she looks pretty good, eh?" And sat down again.
Don't forget your wife. Definitely.
Yeah, that's right. You've got one job, don't you, as a groom? And so, just quickly, how old are your kids?
They're 1, 4 and 7.
Okay, and so 4's in preschool, 7's in
primary school, yep.
Something.
Year 1, yep.
Year 1, okay. Fantastic.
Yep.
All right, now we've caught up. We'll have a bit of a break and play some music, and we'll come back and talk a little bit about more what a physio does and what you do as a physio.
All right, before we start, I've got to say a big thank you to Tim Brosnan for the last 2 hours of Through the Past Darkly. And I'm going to start with one for Sam, and this is Olivia Newton-John and Physical. And that's Tom Jones and Delilah. So back to you, Sean and Sam.
Yeah, thanks for that couple of songs there. Physical by Olivia Newton-John was obviously a song I selected for Sam.
Yeah, very appropriate.
Yeah, and Sam's a bit young to know the film clip, the video clip for it, but it does feature Olivia Newton-John getting physical and doing exercises on a bike machine, and I think there's a rowing machine, and all wearing very much 80s aerobics gear and leg warmers and all that sort of stuff.
Does she look like she does on Grease?
Yes, she does.
Yeah, great.
Yes,
yeah, I'll have to look it up.
Yes, it's not a bad video clip. It's very interesting. And I guess there's a little bit, probably 2 or 3 deeper meanings to that song. So one of the surface levels physical exercise. So all right, so you're a physio. What's a physio?
What is a physio? I guess most people, when they think about physio, they think about someone they go to and they got a crook back or a sore neck or something like that, and they want to get maybe a bit of a massage. But a lot of people that work as a physio are, I guess, working with people to try to help them move a bit easier and maybe without discomfort and building up their exercise levels. There's lots of different ways physios work. Lots of physios work in hospital settings. For example, people after surgery or...
So recovery sort of things?
Recovery and working on people with chronic conditions in hospital when they're coming in and out of intensive care and things like that, helping them get back on their feet and recover. A lot of physios work obviously in private practice settings, working to help, reduce pain or after sport or surgery as well. And then obviously there's physios that work in the disability space out in the community. So it's a pretty varied field that a lot of people work in.
It sounds like there's sort of two aspects to physio. There's one, I guess, where you're working with people to develop exercises for specific muscle groups and either getting strong or, I guess, learning to work around limitations that they have. But there's also that kind of massage or, I guess, not like manipulation or like chiropractic sort of stuff, but where you do stuff as well. Is that accurate? Is that...
Yeah, the hands-on kind of stuff, you mean? Yeah. And I guess that there is a bit of a crossover with that hands-on stuff with, chiros and things and osteos and things like that. So it does have a crossover.
So there is a bit of manipulation sort of thing?
Some physios, definitely usually do a bit of further training to be able to do that.
Yeah, okay.
And things you might have heard of, ultrasound and things like that, and dry needling and things like that are quite common, I think, especially at the moment.
I didn't realise I thought physios was more about exercise and those sorts of things, maybe a bit of massage, but I didn't realise it was also...
Yeah, no, it's really varied. Just depends on the physio that you go to, I guess.
Okay.
Yeah,
and obviously there's lots of specialisations within being a physio.
Yeah, definitely. Ranging from, working on someone after they've had a stroke, or maybe they've got a chronic lung condition like cystic fibrosis or something like that. I was going to
ask, do you do like the percussive, massage and things like that for cystic fibrosis? And
yeah, so especially I worked for quite a long time in the hospital system, so I used to do a lot of that kind of work.
That's when I say percussive, it's like where you bang people.
Yeah, it looks like a massage. Yeah, it looks like a...
But it's a bit harder, isn't it?
Yeah. Some people get a bit shocked walking into the intensive care unit and you see someone giving them a bit of a shake. But it's all all to help them out.
Break up the stuff in the lungs.
Yeah, and they can breathe a bit easier then.
Interesting. So. Exercise science was the first course that you did?
Yeah, that's right.
What's the difference between that and physio?
Exercise science, I guess, was looking at the physiology of movement and the human body. And
so a bit more theoretical.
Yeah, that's right. Okay. And then how we could use exercise, I guess what happens after we exercise, and then I guess starting to look at how we can, apply it to different people. It's a bit of a stepping stone too. So it's like the undergraduate kind of theoretical side, and then people usually move into another field. So maybe they'll go into teaching, becoming a PE teacher, or becoming an exercise physiologist or a physiotherapist or a sports trainer or something like that.
OT, do OTs fit into that as well, or are they a bit different?
They have a bit of their own separate kind of pathway.
Okay, what's the difference, I guess, in a couple of sentences between a physio and an OT?
Sure, yeah. Well, I have to give them a good rap because I know lots of lovely OTs. I guess occupational...
That's not what you were saying before you come on air.
Yeah, don't sell me out.
Joking.
Occupational therapists, I guess, in the community setting, in the disability setting, will come into a person's home and look at what kind of equipment they might need that's going to help make their life a lot easier. For example, how they're going to shower easier. Maybe they need a shower chair or something like that, or how can they get around the community a bit easier? Maybe, for example, using like a wheelchair or something like that.
A walker or something?
Yeah, but like a prescriptive aid and doing those functional assessments.
Okay.
Physiotherapists are probably more commonly with people a lot more frequently, doing exercise and programs and treatment rather than that prescription of aids and
so would this be right? And I'm probably not that correct or not, but so OTs, I guess, are more around an assessment and then technical aids and things for a current capacity, and physio, and obviously there's a crossover, but physios are more on increasing that capacity and looking for ways to build strength and those sorts of things.
Yeah, on a physical level, within their body, I guess. So we often work pretty closely together, working with people to get the best, their best kind of outcome that they're looking for, I guess.
Yeah, okay. You finished uni. What did you do after you finished uni? How did you sort of progress the career of physiotherapy?
So I went straight into working in a big hospital in Sydney where I got a lot of different experience.
And was that, because you said before, was that like an emergency department or actually a physiotherapy kind of outpatient department, or?
We rotated all around through the different areas.
Okay.
So that was, intensive care. That could be outpatient physio. So that's where people come in for that more kind of traditional physiotherapy that you're thinking about, like the hands-on stuff. And all the different wards, working with people after surgery. And so you got a really good broad early experience of lots of different patients in the hospital.
Okay, wow.
After that, me and my wife were keen to leave Sydney and live on the coast. And we looked both north and south and decided on Wollongong. It's such a beautiful place, of course.
Yes, definitely.
Funnily enough, I didn't know much about it growing up in the Blue Mountains, even though it was never that far away.
What did you know about Wollongong before you... It's interesting to know what people know about Wollongong before they come down there.
It was a place we drove through to get to Husky, actually. So
okay.
I remember driving through it, but
Yeah.
I never actually stopped there, funnily enough, until we moved down, for work, and then I just, fell in love with it. So we've been here since 2015, and really enjoyed it.
What part of Wollongong do you live in?
In Dapto now, glorious Dapto, yeah.
Fantastic.
Yep, enjoying it down there.
Yeah, interesting. It's just I've had over the years a few people were just part of jobs that I've done where I pick people up from Melbourne, from Brisbane, from other places in the state, even overseas, and some often they've only heard about Wollongong being an industrial place or and then you bring them. When I do that, I usually bring them down Stanwell Park and along the coastal drive down there, and they're like, "This is not the Wollongong I know about. This is beautiful." And but we like to keep it a bit of a secret. So.
I was going to say, don't tell too many people.
It's a pretty horrible place to live.
And I never got to grow up on the beach, so it's pretty novel living near the coast, which is really glorious. And got the escarpment there too, which is fun to explore through. So
have you discovered Port Kembla Beach in the summer yet?
Yeah, it's a hot place.
Yeah.
Windy and hot, but it's it's beautiful beach.
Protected by that summer's wind, so it's you go out of the beaches and you get the sand stinging you from the wind. Where at Port Kembla, it's nice and protected by the big hill there, and so
I was only actually there on the weekend.
Oh, yeah.
With the kids, so we had a lovely time there. They're getting busy again, actually.
Yeah.
So I think it was a warm weekend, so everyone was trying to make the most of it.
Yeah. Okay. And so then you worked at hospital, then you moved down to Wollongong, and what happened then?
Yeah, so I was lucky enough to work at Wollongong Hospital for about 5 years. Again, getting lots of experience in all the various different areas. And I guess that's what got me thinking of working, in the disability sector, because you'd often work with a lot of patients in hospital that were already on the NDIS. I guess while they're in hospital, you get a taste of working with that person and their particular issues, and then I always wondered what it'd be like to, work with them, long term and develop that kind of rapport that sometimes it was hard to develop while you're in hospital, especially when they're only there for a short time.
Okay, so really connect with people on a long term, sort of deeper level, and be there not just at that sort of emergency critical time, but also longer term as well. Yeah, that's
what I was really craving. I think just that relationship you can develop with people, but that takes time, and I'm really enjoying that. So.
Like growing up, you've moved into disabilities now, and that pamphlet obviously you saw, but you had no family members or an uncle at a Christmas party every year in a wheelchair or anything like that. No connection at all.
Not that I can remember, actually.
Interesting.
Yeah, I guess it just the want to work in that area just developed, I guess, over time working through physiotherapy and the university.
Obviously, physios, you're working with people, but what is it about disabilities, I think, that caught your attention?
Yeah, that's a good question. I guess
or nothing. It's just where you moved to.
I just find that you can make such a great impact on their lives, and I just I find for the most part they're just the most lovely people to work with, and they're so grateful for any kind of assistance they can get in their lives. And for example, some of them have undergone the hardest things, or had really tough existences, but they're still, so willing to work on things and, make the best out of their life. So it's lovely to work with those kind of people.
Oh, interesting. The NDIS, I've been in this game long enough when the NDIS was a bit of a pipe dream, well, long before it was. And one of the things I got excited about the NDIS when it was proposed and I was involved with to do marches in the street and all kinds of things to get it in place was bringing people like you into the industry. And I thought, we've got lots of people that specialise in disability, but I think having someone like yourself with just that life experience that comes into it is, I think, a really great success kind of outcome of the NDIS. And obviously, I think without the NDIS, you wouldn't be able to be involved because there's one physio per 1,000 people, or, probably a bit of exaggeration there previously. But now with funding like that, people can really improve their lives. And for me, one of the things around physio, it's an investment. Working with people's capacity means that they need less support later on. There's less health issues. There's less reliance on systems. They can become more of the person that they can be capable of through physio. So it's interesting. People like yourself have come in without that family connection or without that kind of burning desire to do it, but, are still doing really good work. So, yeah.
Yeah, no, I'm really enjoying it. It's a lovely place to work and working with that kind of community.
Yeah. Okay, cool. All right, well, Peter's waving at me. He's jumping on one leg and hopping around. I think he wants to play some more music. Pete, is that accurate?
That's it, yeah. And that's Roger Whittaker, Darrentown. Before that, we had Mary Wells and My Guy. And don't forget, at 1 o'clock, you've got Elaine and The Smooth Connection. So back to you, Sean and Sam.
Thanks, Peter. Great music as always, mate.
I always pick good music.
You dust off the classics, don't you? fantastic. And so you work in the hospital and you went to work for a bigger organisation sort of doing physiotherapy stuff, but just recently you've moved out on your own. Tell me a little bit about that.
Yeah, so probably, I guess last year, started a company called I've got to give myself a plug, of course, the business called Through Life Physio. We're just based in the Illawarra. By me saying we, it's me and another physio at the moment. So we're just a team of two, which works very well.
Shout out to Eliza.
Yeah, shout out to Eliza. I'll have to get her on the show, I believe. We're just working very well together. So, we're really enjoying at the moment getting out and about and connecting to everyone in the NDIS space. And, just getting to know people and telling people what we're about and what we offer, I guess.
Which is?
I guess as a team of two, we're very maybe a very personal experience. So, anyone on the NDIS that requires physiotherapist or wants to work with a physio, by working with us, you'll only ever deal with us two. And of course, we're just amazing people to work with, I feel like we just, really enjoy working in that space. Trying to work in whatever, aspect or whatever area they like to work in, whether that's at home or, hydrotherapy in a local pool or at a beach somewhere or out in the beautiful escarpment, wherever they want to do that or whatever their goal is, we like to help them work towards it. So.
And I, through what I do in my day job, when I'm not on the radio, I do manage a couple of group homes, and there's a group home, they've got a couple of older ladies, and the energy that Sam's brought is fantastic. I think I've told you this, but a couple of weeks ago I was in there and one of the ladies was standing up. The other two have a bit of mobility issues, so they were sitting down and they were throwing a tennis ball around the room and having a lot of fun and giggling when they were dropping it. And I said, hey, what are you doing this for? Oh, Sam told us to do it. You kind of, you've brought in, what do they call it, skateboards and all kinds of things in the past.
You've got to keep it interesting, that's for sure. Yeah, I mean, especially in that group, and we have so much fun dancing around the place. And, exercise is so different for each person, and you've got to find something they really enjoy and they want to do long term. So particularly in that group home, we have so much fun dancing to a lot of music, which gets them up and about and, working on their balance and their mobility. Just some great classics, 80, classics like Olivia Newton-John, of course, and ABBA and all the...
Probably a bit of Elvis, knowing the ladies as well.
Of course, yeah, Elvis and, the Village People, all those good ones.
It's like a diet. Like you can have this diet and you lose weight, but then you go back to what you normally eat and you go off the diet. But having things that you enjoy and you're motivated to do and don't feel like exercise, I think is a pretty useful way of doing exercise without doing exercise.
Oh, you got to make it fun, that's for sure. And you just got to, it's so different for every different person. So, yeah, really important you have a good time while you're doing it, because you're right, it is a long-term thing. So,
and Move Through Life, how did you come up with that name?
I was kind of brainstorming different ideas, and I kept thinking about something through life or movement in life or something, and then I believe it actually was my mother-in-law that actually finally said Move Through Life, and that then it was born. So,
okay.
Yeah.
Fantastic. Yeah, it's always interesting how you come up with names for things and you sort of throw things around and something just grabs your attention. And
I should say, movement is so crucial to life. Humans are born to move, so it's just so important. So it just worked from there. And how do people find out more about you? We're on a website that Eliza's very kindly made at the moment. So there's a website, I believe, if you search for Move Through Life Physio, it should come up. Yep. We're also on Facebook. And via the usual channels, I guess, email and phone and things like that. Things like that. So, but if you just Google Move Through Life Physio, it should come up. It'll pop up on the Facebook page, or the website. Yep. Cool. Well, I've got one question to finish off with, and I always like to finish off with this. Considering what you do and all the things that you've seen, if you had a magic wand, you're Harry Potter, and you could make some big changes to society, I guess in terms of physio, what would you do? What would you like to see happen? In the disability space? Or just society in general, just in terms of, physio and fitness and what you do? What are you working towards in terms of your ultimate goals? What would be, something that would be fantastically successful, for physio or for yourself? I guess where do you start with that question? Yes. Maybe I guess what comes to mind is anyone on the NDIS that really wants to work with a physio and that really is struggling with their mobility. I'd love if they always had the funding that they needed. It's not always that easy getting them the funding that they could really benefit from, I know. So if everyone that really wanted it and wanted access to that funding, if they could get it, that would be so, beneficial and make me very happy in my job. Because we do hear a lot about fraud and all these things in the NDIS. My experience is that there is a lot of fraud, I guess, but
It's the people that are being fraudulent, that are participating in fraud. It's the people that really deserve the support that sometimes get caught up in that and the hoops they've got to jump through and the reports and things to get funding, and they do tend to miss out. So that's an interesting observation there. I think that more access to funding would benefit more people. And, really, I've talked about this before, I don't know if you've heard, but the National Disability Insurance Scheme should be the National Disability Investment Scheme. And I think physio is a big thing of that. That increases people's capacity, their health, and decreases the funding they need in the future and the reliance. And
just, building up their joy of movement is so important. And then if we can get them more excited about moving in their own, way that they love, I think in the future they'll be stronger for longer, and obviously less, they'll be less required, relying on
the
their
house
health.
more and see family and, just do things a lot of probably people take for granted, I guess.
That's right. And even it would even just pay off on an economic level. So there's so many benefits to getting people moving and regaining their love of movement. So.
Well, anything else we haven't missed or we haven't talked about, or anything else you'd like to...
I think that's pretty good. I've had a great time. Thanks so much for having me.
All right, well, cool. Thanks for coming in. Appreciate your time.
Yeah, thank you, Sean. Thank you, Peter.
Thanks, Sam.
It's my pleasure. It's been a great interview, actually, and a good talk.
Thank you, and thanks for the great music too.
Oh, you're welcome.
I just think we'll just say goodbye now and finish up, and I think there's probably a little bit of time for a little bit more music there, Peter. But
I'll play some more.
Thanks again for coming in, Sam.
Yeah, great. Thanks a lot. It's been
Shout out
great.
to Beck and Tony who couldn't make it in. Well, hopefully they can make it in next week. But again, thanks for Peter for stepping in and helping out.
My pleasure.
So 2007 it started, 17 years ago.
Yeah, a long time, isn't it?
Yeah, and you're still pressing the buttons, mate. Thanks.
Yeah, I'm always pressing people's buttons.